Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room with myself, Willem, Hassan, and Dan. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on this Friday night stream, just as the Premier League is kicking off in about a half an hour with Spurs versus Nottingham Forest. I have it on the screen here in front of me, so if I see any score updates, I'll make sure to let everybody know, whoever's invested in Fantasy Premier League. I am, because I have 3 Spurs players in. I got them in just today, so I'll be very happy with that if anybody scores on that. But just some housekeeping before we get into anything. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We're nearly at our 10,000 subscribers mark. We're just over 9,850 at the moment. So another 100, less than 150 to reach that 10,000 mark. And our goal before we hit the new transfer window. So if you haven't done so already, please do so. It's free, and look, you can change your mind later if you don't want to. Also, we have our predicted 11 out tomorrow at 12 p.m. I'll be looking after that, so make sure that you have your notifications on for that so that you never miss a video or a stream. We're live every day from 7:30. We'll have a post-game stream following our match against Manchester United on Sunday as well, and we'll be live tomorrow with a match preview from 7:30 UK time too. But without further ado, we'll get into it because there's absolute madness with transfers today and the past couple of days. We didn't really report on any of them purely from the fact that we had our pre-game and our post-game the past couple of days. JMU's calling you out already, Dan, on holiday break straight away.
He knows what's up.
Yeah, the semester's over for Dan, so Dan is back with us for the foreseeable. Thankfully, we did miss him during his college semester, but we're happy to have him back. He's always good to be on the stream with. But we'll get into some transfer news straight away because there's a lot to get through. There's a multitude of players. We have Yoro, we have Mamadou Sonko, we have Thuram again, we have Hincapie again, and then we have Palhinha coming up in the news again. And we also have some loanee news with Fabio Carvalho as well coming through that Liverpool want him back, but RB Leipzig are like, no, but we love him. And we're all kind of sitting there, well, if you loved him, you wouldn't only play him 275 minutes out of the season so far. So somebody's lying here. But without further ado, we'll get into the first one of the transfers that I wanted to speak about, which is Yoro, 6'2" centre-back from France who plays for Lille at the moment. He's 18. He's a right-footed centre-back at this moment. Very rangy, long, very similar to a Joel Matip, like very skinny, very long sort of a player. And Dan, seeing this is my first time back with you, I'll throw the question over to you first, essentially, is we'll be discussing basically how these guys might fit into the squad. Is it good business, or is it just paper talk and silly season ramping up again before we hit January at this moment? Have you looked at any of Yoro's tape, or what's your opinion on him as a player and our business towards him?
No, I'm not really familiar with Yoro. I only really catch Ligue 1 like once in a while. Now, I mean, it is a very interesting league to watch, not just because we used to have our favorite transfer boy now, Kevin Thuram, who's now, I guess, the next Gaston Ramirez. You know, he's going to be linked every year. And we're always saying, oh, he's linked. Why aren't we signing Gaston Ramirez? I think we're still signing Gaston Ramirez in January, but we'll see. No, I mean, I haven't seen him play at all. I'm actually trying to pull up his stats here at the moment. I don't know how I feel about buying a 18-year-old center back and with the idea of like starting. If you're buying an 18-year-old center back, you're essentially saying Quan's the fourth. So and he would essentially come in as the fifth center back. He's played 14 games this year. He played 13 last year in the league in Ligue 1 for Lille. He has 35 appearances overall, and he's already scored 3 goals. Listen, tall, young, strapping center back that's French. Sounds like Konate 2.0 to me. If he's available for some money, I say what the heck, throw like 12 to 20 million quid on them to Lille. And
Transfer market has him at 18 million euro at the moment. So
18 million. So yeah, I don't know. I actually don't even know if Lille was in Europa League last year, because again, this year, they were 5th, so they're probably in the Conference League. So, I mean, listen, if it's a opportunistic signing, I think we're going to get them. Again, we haven't really bought anyone from the French market since, I don't know when the last time we bought a player from the French market. Someone would have to correct me on that if they know off the top of their head. I just don't think he's the right profile they're looking for, unless they think Quan's is the fourth. I think that's the biggest question. And if Quan's going to be your fourth choice center back, I think that's not even time to buy a Yoro.
Yeah, it's more so the reason not so much for starting. I was more so thinking maybe to solidify depth in a young centre-back core that can grow into it. So, like, Virgil van Dijk is coming to the twilight of his career. Hassan, and realistically, you'd rather rebuild sooner than later and leave us in a particular situation similarly to the midfield where we had to do it all in one summer. Whereas if we go and purchase these young 18-year-old kids who have a lot of potential and a high ceiling, it can essentially circumvent the problem, meaning that we don't have to go out and spend 80, 90, 100 million on somebody because we could have built them up from an 18 million euro signing. Andy Robertson is perfect. Excuse me. A perfect example of that. Spent less than £10 million on him, and he became one of the best left backs in the world. Now, am I saying everybody's going to become an Andy Robertson? Not at all. But I feel like establishing and re-establishing the depth and the youth into the centre back role, considering we now have it in every other facet of the team outside of Alisson, but Alisson can go for another 8 years if he wanted to. Keepers are an anomaly, but getting youth is never a bad thing, and a young 18-year-old can be very easily molded, and he gives me the very same physical profile as a Joel Matip. So I'm not sure if you've watched any of Lenny Yoro himself, but I've watched a little bit of him. He's a long, rangy guy, likes to get his foot into a tackle. He's very similar to a Matip, as Dan mentioned. He's already got 3 goals in 35 appearances, which is, for a centre back, that's a lot. And a guy that's over the 6 foot mark is usually somebody that's good in the air too. I haven't really looked into his stats if he's that good in aerial duels. I'm sure Dan will let us know that if he is, because he might have them up there in front of him.
Give me a few minutes.
No problem. I will come back to you in a couple of minutes, Dan. But Hassan, give me a couple of your thoughts on this as a business sort of perspective. Like, is this good business to start maybe investing in some youth in certain positions, such as the centre back and maybe right back and left back, and sort of starting to filter out that back line with some youth again?
Yeah, as we all know, we target the players beforehand. If he's available at the right price, we will go for him. But the only thing which surprises me, like last summer, we were really in for Colwell, who's left-sided, left-footed centre back. So in last 2-3 players we have been linked with are not left-footed. Maybe they are not that much available, but if he was left-footed, it would have made more sense. But as we know that we have already scouted and we have already made reports, and if Klopp says and gives a go ahead, we will sign him. But as you said, he's really young, so let's see.
Yeah, it's a youth thing, isn't it, Willem? Realistically, we can see here that just going through the comments and everything. We've Paul mentioning about how Reece Williams is not expected to compete for a place, or are we saying it is? Why would we need this Euro guy? And then also in relation to JMU saying seems like agents like to talk up their shit again, considering we're hitting silly season and somebody wants to get a big payday. Also, comments is on your Stone Roses mug. Or Stoner Roses.
I was going to thank him for it in a sec, but yeah, it's my favorite one. I love it.
Paul seems to agree with Hassan that he's quite young. It might be a bit of a risk to take a punt on this kind of a guy, but realistically, if a young guy that's 18 and is playing in the first division of even if it's the French league, I understand we don't all rate the French league all that greatly, but he's still playing professional football in one of the top 7 leagues in Europe. He seems to be a decent enough player that can have a high ceiling. Would you be against the signing in any way, shape, or form, or do you feel that we need to focus on more higher profile targets as we're in a bit of a win now mode?
I mean, I'm not against it, but I kind of feel like I have deja vu from 5 or 6 years ago when this similar kind of transfer was made, when we signed a 17-year-old Dutch centre back from PEC Zwolle, who is now out on his 5th loan, I think, which is Sepp van den Berg. So it's kind of a hard one to know, because first of all, honestly, I don't even know what we're going to do with Sepp van den Berg long term, because he's out on loan again now, and like he's going to be 24 after this, and we haven't really seen him play for the first team at all. So what are we gonna do with that? Obviously, same goes for Reece Williams and with Nat Phillips coming up, with their contracts coming up. And I mean, yeah, it would be one of them where it could genuinely turn out to be a class signing, but there is also a massive risk that it does turn out like another Sepp van den Berg, who you don't end up using or utilizing throughout the squad, and just kind of becomes an asset, even though we haven't been great at selling assets lately or really flipping them. So I'm not too sure on it. I do think it's more of the case that, like the comment said, that agents have been just dropping our names everywhere now, just kind of get some things moving. Obviously, with the window being 2 weeks out, but yeah, I'm not opposed to it, but I also don't know enough about the player to be like, yes, 100% we have to get this guy. And for, I don't know, normally for 18-year-old wonder kids, if they're good, you hear about it pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, then again, we don't necessarily sign wonder kids, so to speak. Harvey Elliott might be one of the very few that we did sign that was considered a wonder kid, even if he was before his injury. But something that I seen that was posted about ourselves is we don't sign stars, we make them. I think possibly the only caveats to that would have been the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker when we signed them, because everybody else that we seem to have signed was done as they were the rejects, so to speak. Like Salah, nobody thought he'd be able to do it in the Premier League. He comes back and he ruins everybody. The likes of Andy Robertson, 9 million bought him for it, and turned into the best left back in the world, and was for some time and probably will be again when he comes back. It's interesting that way, but I don't think youth is a bad thing. I agree with you, and I wouldn't be against it myself. It's more just it's the worry of, realistically, for 18 million euro, I'd think it'd be worth taking a punt on him in the summer, but not in January. I wouldn't take him in January purely because we're in a win now mode. You don't buy stuff for the future in a January. You buy stuff for the next 3 to 4 months in a January that can propel you forward to win a Premier League. That's my own opinion about it. But we'll move on to the next person that I have on the list, which is Mamadou Sonko. Was somebody speaking?
Before we move on, William age step Vandenberg too much. He's only 21 at Mainz. He's only 21 years old. He's only 1 year older than Kwanzaa.
24.
He's only 21 years old. He's not that old, William. I was gonna say 24. That doesn't seem right.
I always feel that because I'm getting older, they're all getting younger than me, or still around. Because I'm getting older, and they used to be all my age or younger. I always think like, oh, he'll be 24, 25 around my age, but no, he's 3 years younger.
So Trent is actually older than McAllister, Soboslai, and Gravenberg in many ways. So Trent is actually, I think he's 25 now. So like he's older.
Trent's one of the old guys.
Yeah, he's actually one of the old guys now.
3 weeks older than Trent, so that's a great reminder for me as well.
I'm 3 years older than Trent. Fuck the laddie.
Sorry to mean to kill your transition there, Steven. So I'll let you get back.
No, you're cool. You're cool. Interrupt me whenever you want, guys. I do not mind at all. All is open and well in this chat. It's all good fun. But also, this is something as well that's very good with our youth team coming up and youth players. Tyler Morton winning Young Player of the Month in November for who's he playing with? Is it Hull or who is it? Hull. Yeah, that's fantastic news, and it's great to see a young player like that coming forward. The next person that we're going to move on to is another 18-year-old striker who plays for BK Hacken, which is Mamadou Sonko, and Helior mentions over here that we've sent scouts to watch the game. He 6 appearances so far this season, 1 goal, no assists in 23 appearances altogether in 2023, the calendar year, 7 goals, 4 assists. He's a left winger, plays with his right foot. BK Hacken are looking for about 6 million to 8 million pounds for him. Again, similar question. I don't know if anybody's watched him himself, but it's depth and is it silly season, Willem, or is it just we possibly could be looking at re-establishing some depth in different particular positions and youth into the squad?
I mean, if we're gonna look to bring in some new players into the squad, I think the last thing right now we're looking for is an attack is another right-footed left winger who mixes between the left wing and the striker.
Just another one. Just get another one.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, for all I know, we could be wrong. We like doing these things as a club, so. But I don't. If that's his profile, I don't see how there would be any reliability to that case in because I just can't see us looking for another left-sided attacker, to be honest. So I don't know. He's probably a good player. I don't know enough about it, but the target doesn't make any sense for me.
Yeah, it's a funny one, realistically, because I don't. It's kind of like a team that's stacked in one position, and then they're getting linked with new signings for the same positions. Like our front line is probably the most deep and stacked in the Premier League at the moment, and that's with Diogo Jota injured. When he comes back, it just increases the profile. But Hassan, it's an interesting thing to be linked to all of these young players. As Paul mentions here, are we becoming the new Brighton, being linked with all these new players, buying all these young players and selling them for a profit? I personally don't think so, but if that business model works and Brighton have gotten success from it, why not try and adopt it? It's very similar to the Moneyball tactic that we have at the moment, and that has been so successful for us of buying players of a particular profile. Why not invest in them when they're younger rather than spending money on them when they're in their prime and build them into their prime? Do you think that should be sort of, could possibly be the blueprint for Klopp's 2.0 as it is at the moment, of buying younger players when they're about to hit their prime at a physical profile who can be molded into a technical profile?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Was it for me or was it for the
other? It was Hassan. Apologies with him.
Excuse me. Sorry, my bad.
It's maybe we are now looking for the depth and making sure that, as we say, that it's 2.0, so that we are looking for the depth. And I just looked at the highlights of this player. He looks really rapid and has an eye for goal. So, and he's coming from a league, so he'll need time to adjust here. He'll go into the reserves before coming in, but he looks a good prospect. But as we all know, it's as the window is coming up, all the journalists, all the agents are now getting on their buses and making sure that their players are getting linked with good clubs.
Yeah, it's. I think the investment in youth is a good thing, but that's really the only two youth players that honestly I don't think anybody's going to be buying any youth players in January. I think they're more summer signings than anything. As I said, in January it seems to be you invest in the next 3 months and try and push your team forward if you are competing for a title, similarly to how reports came out that as being out of Europe, Man United are looking to offload a couple of players in January. Not sure how they'll do that, considering the wages that they're on and the fact that they're all shite. But that's just, I'm not sure how they're going to possibly do that. Before we move on to a couple of other things, though, I want to put this to the chat because I gave it to everybody in the panel before we came on. Speaking of United, if anyone in the chat can tell me two of the players that are currently still in the Premier League that played for United the last time they beat Liverpool at Anfield, you'll be held in very high regard by the panel and myself. If anybody can, there's two of them. Two of them are still currently in the Premier League, and we'll see. And I want to see if anybody gets it, and I'll read out the squad when if the second somebody gets it, because I couldn't believe the players that were on this team, that it was that long ago, and the fact that we lost that game to this team is absolutely shocking. But if anybody can guess who it was, we'll have a look. Can't remember what was for breakfast. Neither can I, mate. Neither can I. Getting to that age now.
Do you know?
Hellier mentioned it. Go ahead, Hassan. Sorry.
Do you know the backline? The game we played that day.
Our backline or their backline?
Ours.
Oh, we'd like Reece Williams and who did we have in our backline that day?
We had Sako, Torre, Moreno.
Jesus.
Yeah, better times now, at least for defensively compared to those days.
Jesus, I'd hate it. When Liverpool are doing bad during a game, the group chat kind of gets a little bit negative and a little bit worrisome.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
I'd
hate to see some of the people that comment not the negative stuff, but that become immensely critical over small things. I'd hate to see those people when Roy Hodgson was the manager, because Christ above, they'd have heart attacks. Realistically,
so I mean, the thing was Sonko, because everyone's like figuring it out in the chat here for seconds. Mamadou Sonko is the fact that he just screams like an RB signing, like he's probably going to go to Salzburg or Leipzig.
Yeah.
They're always looking for young wingers. I mean, this is his one like breakout season in the Swedish league for BK Häcken. I don't think Liverpool are going to spend money on an 18-year-old attacking left winger. However, it would make sense that Leipzig might be looking to buy him if Liverpool are trying to pull out Fabio Carvalho because he doesn't fit the 4-2-2-2 that Marco Rose is playing at RB Leipzig right now. And Leipzig are in a weird position where, they're in a very tight top four race. And they've been okay. They haven't been amazing. And they have they sold that cycle of youth prospects. Soboslai, Guardiola, Simmons is on loan. So they need to get in that next batch of cheap ones that they can sell out in another couple of years. I think they got Sasheshko.
Yeah.
They have Opienda, that forward that everyone was just enjoying skinning City's defense in their Champions League game. But honestly, I don't think there's any chance Liverpool are going to spend money on a attacking left wing youth player when they already have, Cade Gordon, Ben Doak. They don't need another project out there.
Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, the complaint.
Yeah, Luis Diaz.
Cody Gakpo, especially on the youth side of things as well. It is fairly stacked. We seem to have a good few people that have mentioned it. So Paul got both of them, Ashley Young and Anthony Martial. Lingard is currently unemployed. He does not play professional football at this very moment. However, I list out the starting 11 for the last time United bet Liverpool in Anfield. David De Gea in goal. Left back was Darmian. Left centre back was Daley Blind. Right centre back was Chris Smalling. Right back was Ashley Young. The two CDMs were Fellaini and Schneiderlin. Then they had three in front of them. Martial was on the left wing, Herrera was up the middle, and Jesse Lingard was on the right wing. And all the way up in front, who scored a goal, was Wayne Rooney. Last time Man United bet Liverpool at Anfield was Wayne Rooney when he scored. That is how long ago it happened. I think Salah has more goals against United than Man United has against Liverpool since he joined. He also has more yellow cards for scoring against Man United than Man United have goals at Anfield since 2016. Do with that information what you will. Because that's a fucking mad stat. I don't care what anybody says. That is absolutely madness, and I love it. But we'll move on from Slate and Man United, and we'll circle back to them towards the end of the stream, because I want to talk about them as well, because it just screams trap game to me, and I don't want to worry about it more than anybody else. But the way everybody's going on about it at the moment, you know what? Fuck it. We'll get into it now. We'll come back to the transfers later, because we're on the topic now. We might as well. Dan, if you want to look up stats, it's going to be Kepram Thuram, Piero Hincapie, Palhinha, and Carvalho. So you can look up the stats while we're talking about this, and we can come back to you about it in a few minutes.
No, we all know the stats. They're good. That's all that matters.
They're good. Are we going to pay? Yeah.
Dan just gave like this little look in between of like, are you for real right now?
I will say though, because I looked up Euros, he's very. I compared him to a couple of center backs. He's very much a front foot defender. He compares pretty well to like people like William Saliba, but he plays much higher than Saliba for Lille. So Lenny Yoro is like a very young prospect, and I think if you're buying him, it's because like you think him and Kwanzaa are gonna be the next two center backs. But speaking of United, I don't think it's a trap game. I think it's just gonna be a miserable game to watch for both sides. Because I think it's going to be 10 men behind the ball with Rashford and Højlund to hold it up, and just it's going to be that type of game where it's like, can we stop the counterattacks and can we pin United down? I don't think United are good enough to beat us. Well, obviously not good enough to beat us in a 1v1 game, but considering, I think Ten Hag is back against the wall. He's just going to put 11 men behind the ball and say we get out this with 0-0 is our starting point, and we go from there. And I think Liverpool and Klopp are probably going to be aware of that, and they have to build into the game and say the first goal is to keep a clean sheet, and then kind of go from there. I can see how it could be a trap game because all the pressure's on Liverpool and none's on United because United are crap. But I think as long as we are just keep our heads and we just keep going and we don't just completely fall apart, I think we'll walk out of there like, one, but with one goal, like 2-1 or maybe like a 3-1
Yeah.
game, kind of like the Mourinho one as well. But I think it is due. I think there is a scoreline when Ten Hag gets sacked, and it's either 7+ or 2-0. So we have to kind of like figure out like what's the scoreline that Liverpool can get when Ten Hag doesn't get sacked, because he can go like, hey, listen, you tried well, boys, but we'll go home, pack it in.
That's the best. That's the best thing I've ever heard. Is like how do we not get him sacked? Considering Mourinho got sacked the day after, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked the day after when we slapped them the last time as well. Now, Willem, I'm going to give you probably the toughest question of the stream, and it was just put into the group chat, and I want to read it out to you. Totally, that's also on the stream sometimes. Said he's seen this on his timeline, and it's a very interesting question. I'm going to pose it to everybody, and I'm going to pose it to the chat as well, because I don't know which one I'd take. Would you take losing against United 7-0 on Sunday if we won the Premier League?
Oh yeah, fine. Yeah, 100%. We've already got 1-7-0, so fuck it. They'll just even it up, and then we get another league, and then we even up the 20 as well. So yeah. If it means winning the league, I'll take it. I've only seen it once in my lifetime. I'll take it another time because we didn't even get celebrated properly the first time.
I see Tom coming back in the group chat as well, saying I'd take a 10-0 loss if it meant that. Hassan, would you be the same? Take a 7-0 loss now, but laugh at the end of the season when we have a Premier League? See, he's thinking about it.
Hassan, we've already got one. We were first. We can always claim that. We were first.
Yeah, but it will make us physically sick for next, I don't know how many months.
Yeah, but then we get a trophy at the end of it, an actual one, not the proclaimed 7-0 one that they keep on giving us for last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Dan, would you take a Premier League if we were to lose 7-0 on Sunday?
Sure, but if we're losing 7-0 to this crap United team, then we're not a serious football club, and everything that everyone has ever worried about has come true. And then, FSG have finally destroyed the Liverpool Football Club, which no one with a serious mind actually believes. But like we would just become the most unserious football club of all time, like United have become over the past 10 years. They have become levels of unseriousness that can't be described. I would even say that Arsenal is still in that era where they're trying to be serious, but they're still very much an unserious team. What else you have to do as well? Obviously, yes, but my God, if that's our last Premier League for a while, if we're winning that Premier League, that's the definition of Fergie. Klopp's not signing a contract. He's saying like, all right, guys, bye. I can't come back after losing 7-0 to these at Anfield of all places.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd take it, to be honest with you. Realistically, I don't think I'd be able to handle the shame of losing to this United team 7-0. I didn't handle it well when we lost 2-1 the same year we hammered them 7-0. I wouldn't. I honestly, you'd have to have me on suicide watch if we lost 7-0. Genuinely.
Think of the 6-1 to Stoke, and just remember things have been worse. And that's it. If we get a league out of it, just to go back to those, just go back to Hudson, go back to all the other ones. Think about all the shit times. But
we've been spoilt. We've been spoilt, Willem. We've been spoilt, which is what a lot of these other people that get really negative don't realize. We've been absolutely spoilt. We've been sat in mediocrity for fuck knows how long, and then we all of a sudden started winning everything, and everybody started coming out of the woodwork. But look, that's a conversation for a different day. We won't be mentioning that here. But just looking at some of the comments, see if I can find anything here. Paul mentions, would you prefer to lose at home to Sheffield United? I don't know if that holds the same value as getting slapped 7-0 by United, specifically this United team. But I think it could be a trap game myself. Dan says it shouldn't be. Hassan, do you feel like this should be a trap game? Do you think maybe we're looking ahead to Arsenal already, or even looking ahead to West Ham midweek, where we'll be playing them in the Carabao Cup quarter-final? Is this a situation where we're possibly looking a little bit too far ahead at the moment and looking past United rather than to see them? Because these derby games, they're weird games, man.
Yeah, exactly. We cannot be, and if you see the Klopp comments, he is really annoyed with all this 7-0 talk. He should be saying that we should focus that, and if we'll talk more about these things, it will motivate United, and they'll come with a hunger. And as you know, these games are really. I remember, like last time, they were in a good form, and they were very confident before that game, and we smacked them. And sometimes they come up, and their players have the game of their lives. Like Rashford always plays really good against us. If you remember that, Mata has done nothing for United, and he scored wonder goal against us at Anfield. So we should be really cautious about this game, and now it's time to look every game and play seriously. We can uh, focus on West Ham and Arsenal after that, but our whole focus should go in this game.
Yeah, Willem Paul mentioned here that Klopp won't have the guys focus on anything other than Sunday's game. He won't take anything for granted on it. Are you in agreement with Paul there that the focus will be 110% on Sunday's game?
Yeah, no, 100%. And as well, because I think one thing that Klopp always does really well for these games as well is it's almost like he reminds the players of how much we as a club despise Man United. Like, if you look as well at a lot of our past results, our players come out normally, even before the 7-0, when we had the 5-0 at Old Trafford and we had the 4-0 at Anfield, like all on the clock. Like, the players come out and they go for it, and it's attack, attack, attack. And I'm not expecting them to do anything different this time around either, whether it's going to be a battering or not. You know, I think we gotta look honestly at the 7-0 as well and admit that everything we touched that day just went in the back of the net as well.
Yeah,
And like, you know, you got to take that on the day that happens. I don't think it'll be a pummeling like that again. And I mean, I even even for the sake of United, just to keep some form of pride, don't let it be 6-0, 7-0, 8-0 again. Like, you know, it's the minimum you're expecting now at this point from them, just to at least not let it get to that level. So I think they will be more switched on in that way, but we should still be beating them in every manner possible.
yeah. Dan, I'm going to throw this over to you for a moment just because I have a knock at the door, so I have to go answer the door really, really quickly. Will you take over as host for 2 seconds, and I'll be back in 2 seconds? Cheers.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. No, I mean, I agree with you, William, and Hassan, I don't know if you've given your thoughts about it yet. But for me, it really comes down to the fact that it's just about managing game states. Like, this United team, if I'm guessing what Ten Hag is going to do, it's like they're going to try and push out for 10 to 15, and Liverpool just need to like manage the first 15 to 20, grab a hold of the game, keep it 0-0, work for the first goal. Then you have your next thing is like you keep it locked down. If you haven't scored, if you had chances, you go 0-0 halftime, perfectly fine. We go out and we go out into the second half as well. The thing is, and I know that I don't want to sound like accepting a draw. If the game ends 0-0, I don't think that's the worst result considering where United are. They haven't drawn all season. They've been either winning or losing. And I think if Liverpool are able to if not lose this game, I think that's more important than the win. I don't know. Hassan, what do you think?
No, for me, I think we should win, considering our position and to keep up the momentum. And so we should be looking to win because this game is for the taking. And before Arsenal game, we should be in high confidence.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm just thinking about what Fergie would think. Because if this was Alex Ferguson, he was having a competition with Arsenal and Liverpool were coming to Old Trafford. He knows how dangerous they are for these types of games. So I'm thinking, Ferguson would be like, 0-0, perfectly fine with that happening. William?
Yeah, I mean, but at least from our perspective, like as in what you said before of like taking the draw, like I'm not for the circumstances we're in, for us being at home. Will I take a draw playing against this Man United team? Like, I am of the like thinking at the moment that we have to win this, like, especially with them being at such a low point and this not always being good. Like, this isn't going to stay in our favor forever. We know, unfortunately, at some point in the future they will probably be back, and then that's when it's going to be a lot harder for it. So we do have to take advantage of these moments. And the thing on the game itself, with me, more of it is, if you look at Ten Hag. Because before he joined United, I remember telling a couple of my mates who support United as well. I remember telling them like one of his biggest flaws for me was, despite what tactic he was sticking on, he will always and to a point where it's stubbornness to a fault, he will always play attacking, or at least try to play attacking. And to be fair, I think in a lot of the games, that's actually now as well with United in the losses they've had. They've gone for attacking, not having the quality up front and not having the stability in midfield, which therefore causes every time for them to pretty much go 1-0 down, 2-0 down, and then their heads go, and then it's a doneness. And I don't think he's going to change that either. So I do think it is a game with opportunities where we do get an easy win, and we shouldn't accept anything less than a win, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm just hypothesizing about what could happen for the game state, because one, it is Manchester United, it is Marcus Rashford, Martial. Again, I'm not saying that they are better than us, but football being a one-off game, they're in their heads like, we need to show some character. I do like Jamie's question, because this is something I think I talked about yesterday, where obviously McAllister can't play because he had the cleat go through his leg and hip bone, so he's like on emergency like deep inflammation of probably antibiotics, antivirals to prevent from getting an infection. I think he starts Jones. I think it's Jones, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai. I think it's the three he would play. And then it would probably be Gakpo. Actually, no, I think it would be Diaz, Nunez, and Salah again. However, I do think there's an argument to play Trent, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and play Gomez at right back. And then essentially you're saying we have this defensive three. You're essentially saying you 7, you go win the game. That's what I think. I think that there's a shout to do that. I would be surprised if you put Endo. I don't mean that in a mean way. I just think that I would be surprised just because every time he's had Jones available, he's played him, and I think Jones gets the best out of Luis Diaz. I feel like we've had some arguments in the chat about Curtis Jones, which I feel like is really unfair. I think Gravenberch and Jones are just two different players at this point in time. Jones is an attacking winger who got converted to more of a Gini Wijnaldum all-round midfielder. I think he plays very well and very smart, though I don't think he had his best game yesterday. And Gravenberch is still very much a 8/10 who's pretty much playing a more free 8/10 role. And I think that I just don't think he has so Paul, I think he could play the 6 eventually, but I just don't think he has the positional discipline right now. And if there's two things I think Gravenberch can improve on, is just passing. I don't mean that in a reductive way. I just mean like keeping the ball moving at bypassing a man. And that's just something that just takes time. Like, that just takes time in coaching. That's not a skill issue. I just think it's more about keeping his head on a swivel and everything else. I think at times Gravenberch is too, and again, I think this is instruction. It's like, it's too willing to like beat 3 players and play a through ball rather than just like beat a man, pass the ball, move. And like, I think at times it's very much the Naby Keita issue. I think at times, though, I will say that I think Gravenberch probably could, barring injury, surpass what Naby's even best moments were. Sorry, Steven, I took over there to get a little bit too.
No, it's cool. Oh, we lost Hassan. Hold on, we'll switch everything up. No, I agree. I think he has the physical profile to play a 6. He's big, he's tall, he's strong, he's very capable of driving the ball forward. Hassan just messaged me there. His power went. He's just trying to connect back with his hotspot, so that's no problem. When he joins back, he joins back. To answer your question, JMuse, it was a curry. Our girlfriend is out in her staff party tonight, so Stephen's not cooking. So I ordered a lovely butter chicken from the Indian takeaway in town. So I'm going to be very much enjoying that with some seekh kebab as well and some mint sauce. So I'm going to be very happy with that. I say mint sauce, like a mint yogurt dip. But I'm going to be very happy with that now once the stream ends. And I have Spurs on in front of me. That's 10 minutes in and still 0-0 at the moment.
Wait, you're telling me Spurs, who won the league in October? They're 0-0?
Yeah, Spurs, who won the league in October, are currently drawing against Nottingham Forest, who Fulham put 5 past. It's very interesting that you mentioned that they won it, because I will never, ever, ever let a Spurs fan forget how they brought their kids out onto the pitch for beating a 9-man team by a last-minute fluke goal and thought they won the league in fucking October. I'll never forget that. Oh, Hassan's back. Happy days.
So, Stephen, I'll pass the question on to you because just before we get back to the transfers, who would you play in midfield besides McAllister? I know Paul says he doesn't like the idea of 6. I'm just saying he just comes inside and just plays a full-on midfield role, and you just play that Gomez, and he just plays next to Szoboszlai. You put him and Szoboszlai next to each other. Essentially, they just play from there. But who would you play in? I think it's going to be Jones. I done
the predicted 11 for tomorrow, and I had Jones, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai, and Jones in the 6. And I flirted with the idea of Trent in the 6, as Paul mentions here, but I feel inverting him allows us to have the overload. And with them missing Bruno Fernandes and having nobody really creative in the midfield for Sunday, I think that is a massive benefit to us and would allow us to properly overload and overpower that midfield, especially going forward, meaning we could pump another man forward. They have a very depleted back line at the minute then as well. They've really only Johnny Evans, who's fit, Varane, who's fit, Luke Shaw, who's fit, everybody else. They have 13 injuries. Harry Maguire misses the game. Anthony Martial misses the game. Rashford is fit. Johnny Evans is fit. Luke Shaw is fit. But realistically, I think we have the forward-going strength to be able to massively overload them. I would love to see Trent in that sort of a deep-lying playmaker role because I don't see them being as threatening from midfield. However, playing a flat back 4 is all well and good, but when you have the opportunity to overload them in the midfield and make them outwork themselves, I think that's probably the best strategy to go with. So I'd agree with you in saying that it should be Jones the CDM role with Trent coming in to play a double pivot with him, and then Gravenberch and Szoboszlai ahead of them. But Gravenberch can drop, Szoboszlai can drop, Jones can move forward, interchangeable in a 4-man midfield like that. Trent can move forward and somebody else can move back. Just play it as a box midfield where all 4 of the positions are interchangeable realistically, and I think that'll probably be the best one with that. Callum mentions that Liverpool have reached agreement with Fulham. Do post the link. I'd very much like to know about that. Dan is immediately on the case.
I was literally looking at my phone now going, what?
Yeah, I was looking at that. Look, if it's not in the group chat, I don't believe it. It didn't happen yet.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything right now, so I don't know where he saw that at, unless he's seeing something else.
I think he might just be pulling your leg. Paul, I didn't have Kwanzaa to start, although I really did want to start him because while he is that cutthroat attitude of being like, essentially like Ivan Drago says, if he dies, he dies. Regards to Joel Matip. I love that mentality. That's a Kobe Bryant mentality. It's a Michael Jordan mentality. I don't care if he's ahead of me or not. My goal is to be ahead of him. And that's what you want your young player to have, not to sit back and be like, oh, I'll wait my turn. No, I want to go and take my turn by the scruff of the neck. And I absolutely adore that about him. But Jesus, that's absolutely horrific by Spurs. That's I don't know if anybody was watching that. That's if Darwin Núñez hit that it'll be all over Twitter for a week. But I would have loved Kwanzaa to start, but I think everybody fully fit, and I think that's what Konate is why he came off at halftime against USG. I think Konate starts, and maybe Kwanzaa comes on 60th, 70th minute to see out the rest of the game. I think he is going to be our centre-back of the future, and we found an absolute gem there. He's, as Damon mentioned earlier in the group chat, he's FSG's wet dream. He saved them £80 million. Like, it's and I don't often agree with Damon on many things, but I agree with him on that. That's the FSG solution. Similarly to how I mentioned it earlier on in the summer, that why buy a CDM when you can move Trent into it? And everybody was like, oh yeah, that's just the perfect FSG move. We'll just spend 10 million on a right back and move Trent into midfield. It hasn't happened, but it kind of has at the same time. But yeah, that would have been my team, Dan. Essentially, I had. You're going to have to tune in for the rest of it, though, because I have some other differences in it. Realistically, that's probably giving it fucking away now at this point. But sure, look, tune in tomorrow anyway, regardless, and make sure that you keep an eye on it.
Plug the content. Watch it
exactly.
Tomorrow. Some more.
Plug the content. Please watch our stuff. Nobody needs to know how I live. We need money. I know. I get paid nothing for this. I just want to point that out. This is volunteering for me.
So Callum causing everyone the heart skip a beat there for a second. So Kefren Thuram, I say no, but that's just me. No Thuram for me.
Yeah, I don't know how that profile fits in. Apparently, we're in talks with his representatives. I don't necessarily know how he fits in now at the moment. Damon loves him. Damon says that he'd be perfect for competition, but I think we've enough there for competition as it is. I don't know how he plays a CDM. He plays it fine with Nice. He's all right. Similarly to how McAllister is all right in the role. but it's just I don't think he's a CDM either. He's a left-sided centre midfielder, and he's or a central midfielder, like right in the middle. As Jamie mentions, Gravenberch is our Thuram. I don't see the need to go and get another Gravenberch when we have one already there. This is an interesting one, though, from Paul, before we get into the last of the signings. If we do get an Asio or a Hincapie, I will absolutely ruin myself if we get an Asio, and Willem knows all about that because we said we were talking about it earlier. Do you see Virgil van Dijk switching to the right centre-back position? I don't know. That's a good question, actually. I don't know. Would they play left back and move and allow Trent to then move into the midfield, similarly to what Man City do in playing centre backs across the back four and allowing Kyle Walker to progress up the pitch and have a flat back three? Would it be a similar situation to that? It's an interesting one. I don't think Virgil would switch, but I think Inacio or Hincapie would play left back while out of possession, but left centre back when in possession, and Virgil would move to the centre. Now, please let anybody correct me on that if they think I'm wrong on it. Hassan, I'll come to you first on that. Do you think Van Dijk would move to the right and Hincapie or Inacio would stay on the left side of centre back? Or would they move into the left back role and play a flat back three when Trent inverts when in possession? Because I'm not sure about that one myself.
Yeah, same here. Because how can they immediately come and take his place? Before that, we have to see them. Maybe they'll play left back, or maybe try at the right, or we'll switch it up. So we'll see the best outcome. Remember what can be achieved, and before that, yeah, it's interesting, and let's see if we get them, if we are really interested in them.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know how that would play out. Elanga's nearly after scoring for Forest. I think Forest win this, to be perfectly honest with you. The way that they're playing at the moment, just watching
That's
it.
going to screw our fantasy team over, Stephen, because I've got like 2 or 3 Spurs players in there as well.
Yeah, I've Son, Pedro Porro, and Udogie, and I'm like, if it ends 0-0, I'll be happy because I'll get 2 clean sheets. I'll be very happy with that. But I'd like a Son goal and win 1-0, and that's me happy out.
1-0 and then Son goal, Porro assist. That works for me. Clear sheet for Porro as well.
Yeah, that'll be the best way to go about it. I'll throw the same question to yourself, Willem. Does Virgil move to the right side at centre back, or would Hincapie or Inacio, if they came, play the left back while in possession, left back while out of possession, and left centre back while in possession, allowing Trent to invert?
I think it would be more of a left back on paper and then left centre back when Trent inverts into midfield, because I think that's also still one of our weaknesses with the new system. And I love Robbo. For me, honestly, Robbo can still play for another 4 years, and I don't care. He can do whatever he wants. He's the best left back I've ever seen with limited qualities, and because that's the whole thing. That's what I love with Robertson. I've never seen a man so one-footed be so good and like just do ridiculous things. So I don't think we have as much of an issue over there, but I do think that if we are to get a left-sided centre back in who is pacey, like Inacio or like Hincapie is, I do feel like that would be the option with them going forward, to stick to the system as well. So probably more playing of a left centre back role rather than a left back role.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think it's the same. I think it'll allow Trent to invert and us to move into that system and sort of, for lack of a better term, copy City. Realistically, is the only way that you can really put it. Dan, I'm going to throw this question to you because it's a doozy. Not so much a question, more of a statement. He's keen on a move to Liverpool. He can be. I don't know if we'd be keen on that move ourselves, considering that they want us.
I'm keen on a move to Liverpool too. I don't know if it's to play.
Yeah.
I might work in the staff department, or if they need someone to, just like clean the boots. I'm available. Like Liverpool, like pay me money. I'll go. Just pay. Don't pay me at all. Just do it for free. But I just need some food, and let me sleep somewhere because
give me room and board, and I'm sound.
Yeah, Merseyside. I'm literally been enslaved by Liverpool Football Club. Literally, not even metaphorically at this point. I don't think Phillips goes. Again, I'm not saying Calvin Phillips is that player. I think he's fine. I think he was just ran into the ground by Leeds and Marcelo Bielsa by the way they play. I just think he just hasn't been able to recover from that. I think he's had issues just maintaining a weight that Pep Guardiola finds acceptable, because we know that Pep Guardiola is very fat phobic and he doesn't like any chunky players on his team. In all seriousness, I feel for Calvin Phillips because he got his big move, he got his money, and he's a very good player. You know, I think he's the closest midfielder that exists that has Trent's like qualities to be able to spray the ball like 60 yards either way. I think he's like a poor man's version of Enzo Fernandez, but you know, I just don't think he solves any problems. I do think though that at times I think I feel like at times when we talk about the Hincapie Ignacio situation, we're kind of we're comparing like oranges to tangerines just because they look similar. I mean, it tastes the same. Hincapie is much more of a left back than Ignacio is. Ignacio is very much just a left-sided center back. I don't think we're signing Gonzalo Ignacio. Again, I've said this because, again, I think if we wanted to sign him, they would have signed him this summer. He's very left center back. He would have been the perfect backup to Virgil, but they wanted someone like Colwell because I think they're worried about homegrown. And I think Kwanzaa Solzek. I think Kwanzaa's going to be the backup left center back moving forward. And I think Virgil's going to just live out his career at left center back. Hincapie makes more sense because he does play left back. And I think if you're signing Hincapie, I think you're moving to a traditional left back situation where it's more someone who maintains width but just keeps the ball in rotation. It's not a flying winger, essentially like Andrew Robertson is, or even how Costas Tsimikas is as well. So I think it just depends on what we want to do. And I said this again yesterday I think the biggest question really moving forward is what you want to do with Trent. If Trent's a right back, I think you just sign. I think we already have a backup right back that essentially is more traditional: Calvin Ramsey, Connor Bradley, and Joe Gomez. Though I think Bradley's not ready yet, and Ramsey's just been injury prone. I think Gomez will be the right back if Trent goes to midfield. And if Trent's going to become a midfielder, then I think you need to buy a 6. Which brings us to Joao Palhinha. Who's been linked?
That's a beautiful segue.
Who's been linked by Christian Falk, who is pretty reliable. I think it's fascinating that they're in for Palhinha now, so I wonder if there's a situation where they can get him from Fulham relatively inexpensive at 40 to 50 mil. And they're thinking Palhinha can play both CDM and center back as well. And yeah, I think so. Paul, this is what I mean. Like, I think they're looking at eight Nori because I don't think they decided if it's Hincapie or a Nori player yet. Someone who's either more attacking and essentially providing width, or a more defensive player. But I don't know. Like, I think apparently there seems to be some blood in the water with Joao Palhinha. I would be very surprised if he went to us over Bayern, just considering how the summer went. But I don't know. I like Joao Palhinha. I think if we're signing him, then, you know, I would be against it just because I think 40, 50 million for a 28-year-old is a lot of money to shell. But again, we spent like 30 on Thiago Alcantara, and he doesn't have as many miles in the tank. I mean, Palhinha is brilliant, but, you know, the
only reason I'd agree with Palhinha is purely he hits the age profile that by the time he hits the age of 32 and would be on the downswing, so to speak, in regards to ceiling or form, shall we call it. He may go to 33 or 34, but 32 would be nearly the year you'd want to cash in on him. If he's there for 4 years, sign him, 4-year deal, done and dusted. All of a sudden, you have Stefan Bajcetic that rolls in at the age of 24, physically ready and fit and able to go. So that's the way that I look at it. As Klopp has mentioned, and it's something that we seem to look at as well. We're not going to be signing somebody that's a young CDM that's like 21, 22, because that'll hinder the development of Stefan Bajcetic. From the reports from Christian Falk as well, and the other sort of rumor mills that have come around, Bayern have seemed to have cooled on Palhinha purely because there's been internal fights and internal discussions about where to spend money. And how they should spend money. And as it is at the moment, Jesus Christ, Nottingham Forest nearly scored again. What the fuck is going on here? As it is at the moment, I think they need a defender more because Kim Min-jae has been horrific. I don't think he's performed that well at all, in my own opinion. And he was their big marquee signing at centre back this year. Dan, you watch a little bit more of the Bundesliga than I would, but I don't necessarily. From anything that I've seen of him, especially in the Champions League, he hasn't been performing all that great. He hasn't sort of lived up to the hype that was behind his name, especially when United were actually drooling over him. But it's an interesting one. Willem, you were obviously nodding your head in agreement with me there. Hassan, in relation to Palhinha coming in, if you got it, like, Dan, I'm sure you take this comparison as well. If we paid 60 million for him, got 2 Premier Leagues out of it, and then had a CDM for the next 10 years that saved us spending 110 mil on a CDM, and you had Stefan Bajcetic ready to go there, I think you'd take that deal all day, realistically.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's my point. If we're in a win now mode, buying a guy that's 22 to grow into a role is not where we need to be. It'd be like the 49ers trying to draft really, really raw quarterback that needs to be developed as third pick in the first round that we don't talk about anymore. But we don't talk about Trey Lance anymore. I love the kid and I hope he does great at Dallas, but that was a fucking terrible decision.
Yeah. Bayern needs center backs because like I'm looking at their players now and like if you've been watching them, they've been having issues controlling games in defense. So yeah, Kim and Jay have been bad. Like Mateus Delic hasn't been good, and we remember how great everyone thought Mateus Delic would be. Uba Macano, Diot Uba Macamo is good, but I think he's got too much Lovren, so there's very much a Rick in him every time that they play, and he's good against like the bottom 6 teams, but he's not good against teams that are of equal quality, and they just don't have that many defenders at the moment. I will say that Tuchel is the one who really wants a 6 because I'm looking through their midfielders now. They really don't have an out-and-out defensive midfielder. Like Konrad Laimer is much an 8, Goretzka an 8. You can argue Kimmich is a 6, but again, he's a double pivot 6 at best, and I think that's why Tuchel wants with Palhinha. Listen, like I said, the reason I was against Palhinha is because I thought we had other issues in the squad. I'm okay with signing Joao Palhinha, but I think that's also a situation where we might be an attacker light going forward, but that's just like a hypothesis. And I think even if we should sign Palhinha, I think we'll be fine. But I think it's also that we're not signing, any other like younger midfielders at that point. I think if you sign Palhinha, that's them saying midfield's done. And then that means you just have the left center back situation that they have to figure out going forward.
It is an interesting one, Hassan. Realistically, like it is, Paul mentioned here in regards to Lucas Paqueta as well. I wouldn't put money on that, but with Paqueta, I love how everybody kind of got the joke. Paqueta, I think realistically, Paul, the only reason I go away from Paqueta myself is purely because he's about to get a ban that will be very lengthy, considering the gambling allegations against him and him betting on yellow cards for himself, which is absolutely bonkers. Like, how the fuck do you get caught doing that? But Hassan, Palhinha as it is, it seems to set things up on a timeline very, very well for a Stefan Bajcetic to come in and actually perform and hit the squad running at the age of 22 or 23 or 24, like hitting his physical prime, and it would allow him time to grow into his body and then slowly grow into the team as well and not rush him in and cause unnecessary injuries.
Yeah, first of all, shout out to Nigel, who has come here just because I asked him, and he's sending so many comments. So, and like you said, it's a really perfect situation for us. I think he has been available, and we think we can do the deal with Fulham because he signed the deal with them, and maybe the relationship with Bayern, like last summer, it broke down. Maybe they were lowballing and payments were scattered. So maybe we have now, and like you said, he's perfect. I really like him, the way he plays. He's aggressive in tackles. He wins the ball and passes really well. So for this and the title push and for upcoming Champions League, maybe we are seeing that in that because without number 6, no team can win. Before Fabinho, we were just there, and we were getting short by 1 point or 2 point. But after getting Fabinho, we crossed the line. So we need a player like him who will bring the experience into fully international player. I really like him. I hope the deal goes through.
Yeah, I do as well. There was a Spurs player down injured there for a while, and I held my heart because I thought it was Pedro Porro, but it's not. It's Ben Johnson. It's a head injury, so we're okay. Me and Willem's fantasy team is still in with a shout for a couple of clean sheets.
Still intact.
But it's there's been a lot of transfer talk the past couple of days, and
I just barge in on the Palhinha thing once.
Yeah, go for it.
Like honestly, because I've had it with Palhinha now, right, for a couple of years. I remember seeing him the first time coming for Portugal at Euro 2021. And I even remember at the time then looking at him, and we still had Fabinho full on in his prime at that point and still playing at the top of his level. And I remember just looking at him at that point and then even thinking, okay, if Fab goes or he downgrades or anything, I want that guy in. And I think as well, one thing that we forget after his failed summer transfer, he did what McAllister did last year after the World Cup, which is sign a new deal. And I think in that new deal, he's probably put in a clause where I reckon 40 million to 45 million should probably do the job for him. And what you said on the Bayern situation is right, because with Bayern, it's interesting as well, because I think Tuchel's probably going to get sacked in the next few weeks, because he's one result in the Bundesliga away from Bayern going into them ruthless German standard of we need to win the league every year. And we're if Leverkusen win and they lose or draw again, they'll be 7 or 8 points behind. So just multiple factors going into it. And for me right now, for the CDM market that's available and for what we're trying to get and from what we know we can get from a player, for me right now, Palhinha is actually the only option as a CDM. If not, I wouldn't bother and I'd go for a centre back.
Yeah, it's. I think the centre back position is thin. I think if we could, it's going to be one or the other. I don't think we sign both in the in the January window. And it's an interest because I think we can kick on without a CDM, but I don't think we can kick on if another injury occurs to the centre back position as it is at the moment. It could get very dicey if the likes of Konate, who is injury prone, goes down for a month. Thankfully, we're getting the biggest set of fixtures out of the way now, the most condensed chunk of fixtures. So we're kind of getting through the weeds as it is now, so that's kind of fine. But it is a little bit worrying. I'd like to see us do some business in January. Not doing any business in January will be very worrying. I don't like the talk of players coming back from loan, because that just screams FSG trying to band-aid over a leak when the leak is going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. But that's just my own opinion on it. Guys, we've just hit the hour mark as it is at the moment. I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. Thank you, Dan, as well, for taking over for that little bit there. I am going to go now and enjoy my Indian, and I'm going to absolutely love watching the Spurs game. That looks so scrappy. It's hilarious. Everybody's falling all over each other. There's slaps being thrown left and right. What was that? I don't know if anybody was watching the game, but one of the Forest players literally jumped on the back of a Spurs player and then threw him to the ground. And it's the 34th minute it happened in. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was more than it wasn't even a shoulder barge. Look at it. That's absolutely nuts. He gets to the head and then he gets tripped, but then he gets up and he starts going on and that's hilarious. I'm loving this game. There's going to be red cards in this game. I can't wait. We'll be doing score predictions tomorrow, Paul. Score predictions will be in the pre-match game, but sure, fire them in there if you want them. We have JMU's mentioning 3-1 LSC. No, we want the clean sheet, JMU's. We want the clean sheet. I just want 3 points, to be honest. I don't care how it comes. If we win 7-6, I don't care. We still get 3 points. That's the way that I look at it, and United fans can hold that L. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We're looking forward to this game on Sunday. Please do join us at 7:30 tomorrow night for our pre-game stream. Richie will be hosting that tomorrow, and we have our predicted 11 out tomorrow at 12 p.m. So make sure that you have your notifications on for that as well. Make sure to like and subscribe too also. It's just so that you never miss out on any of the streams. I hope everybody has a lovely evening, and I hope everybody loves watching Spurs fool around here. And how did he miss that? Jesus Christ. I love it.
Like you said that 4 times already now in the past half an hour.
Porro, again. Son pass it into Porro, and he just chests it wide for some odd.
It would have been reversed for us as well. Porro goal and a clean sheet. Then.
Yeah, it would have been. I'll take it. More points for the defender getting it. This game is absolutely bonkers. It's just guys flying into each other.
I just did it for a free hit because Haaland's out, and then I was like, I haven't got enough transfers to do now, and I had more suspensions, so I just threw a free hit on for this week.
Oh, why'd you do that, man? Haaland's out next week as well with a miss. He's on a blank.
Oh yeah, but then I'll have a transfer without it costing me points, and I can bin him.
I already took him. I already took a -4. I took Douglas Luiz out. I took Haaland out, and I brought in Solanke and Son for this week.
Yeah, I had 4 players in my starting 11 out of suspension, so I had to. I had to make some moves.
Fair enough. Anyways, guys, thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we will see you guys tomorrow at 7:30 for our pre-game stream. Thanks so much, and goodbye.